Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of Double Barrel Gaming Presents our honest Crackdown 3 review and discussion. Now, of course, this is going to be a show that's going to run about 90 minutes. The main topic of conversation is going to be Crackdown. Obviously, I don't work for Microsoft or Sumo Digital, and I'm not getting paid to do this, but, I have a small voice in the community. I certainly do not have the reach of an IGN or a GameSpot or a Kotaku. And the reason why I bring those particular three up isn't because I'm picking on them, is simply because they had a lot of negative things to say about the Crackdown 3 game that was just released 2 weeks ago, actually 2 Fridays ago, into Game Pass. And being a huge fan of the game, I've observed a tremendous amount of negativity. And as you guys know, my channel is usually run with complete positivity that powers it from that makes the gears turn, if you will. And I reached out to a few people that have enjoyed playing the game, and we kind of wanted to get together and talk about why Crackdown 3 isn't the I think it's 6.0 or 5.7 on Metacritic that a lot of people are saying. And I did gather up a fantastic panel. Now, normally I have outrageous openings because the show is a little shorter and I'm a little bit under the weather. I'm just going to kind of just tell you who they are, and we're going to get right into the Crackdown 3 topic. First of all, I'd like to introduce Enrique from BRAP. He is the showrunner of the Basement Radio Arcade podcast. It is a fantastic show. Real proud to say that I assisted them, and I really did nothing because it's their talent that got them over the 1,000 hump. But Enrique, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, Boom! Thanks for having me back, man. It's always a pleasure to come on Double Barrel Gaming and talk video games, man. Great topic, and excited to talk about Crackdown 3. And hey, man, you did help us, man. I mean, that's appreciate the
listen, dude. You know what, you guys? I listen. I said this to you on the show when we did it live. You guys, one of the first shows I found, and to actually work with you has been an honor for me personally. And it was my absolute pleasure to assist a podcast that deserved not only to be able to get monetized. People don't understand how big and important that is for a small YouTuber. And you have a great crew. You have a real fantastic brother kind of bond with everyone there, and it's great to see your success continue to roll.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
All right, well, listen, let's move on to the next person. First of all, he is rather new to the YouTube scene. I believe this might be his second podcast. I was happy and extremely proud to present him on Breakfast with Boom a couple of weeks ago. Please welcome Tempest.
What's up, Boom? How you doing? Happy to be here. February 14th rolled around, your head lifts off the pillow, you want to check Metacritic because the embargo lifted, and you're just like, oh no.
Yeah.
Like, what happened? Train wreck. And so you start getting worried. 15th rolls around, you start playing it, and you're like, what? You're like, what happened?
What are they talking about?
Yeah, what happened? What is this? And then you keep playing, and then you just want to keep playing more and more and more. I mean, I've had fun with some 60 Metacritic games before. Some more like fanboyist games or whatever, like old anime games and stuff. But this isn't that. This is a great game, and it was murdered, if you will. So.
Yeah, we're gonna get into the whole point of hashtag fun. I think somehow or another, because of the plastic wars that rage wildly on social media, we forgot that we're supposed to actually play games to have fun. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a foreign concept to some, but we'll get into that. Next up, we have So Shady. This is a guy that has been making the rounds as of late. He is an extremely strong voice within the community. He is a gamer through and through, and I'm actually very, very happy to have him coming on to Breakfast with Boom on a regular basis. And I thought, well, you know what? He does that. Let me ask him if he'd be interested. And because he's actually enjoying Crackdown, he agreed. So Shady, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Boom. It's almost as if a little bit of deja vu, like I was just on the show yesterday with you. It's good to be back. I gotta say, I'm a self-described massive crackhead. I
Yes.
love this series, man. I appreciate being included on such an awesome panel of guys to talk about what I would consider to be a damn good video game.
Yes. Well, listen, I'm glad you're here, brother. I know you're probably running on zero sleep because you've been making the rounds as of late. But like I said, this isn't going to be a long show, but it's going to be a fun one. And last but certainly not least, first of all, I tell him this all the time. I absolutely love his avatar. I think it says a lot. But you know what? His personality is not that. He is a gentleman. He is a scholar, and he is also a diehard gamer and a strong, powerful voice on the Basement Radio Arcade podcast. Please welcome Slow-Mo Backslap.
Hey, what's up? Thanks, Boom. I really, really appreciate that. A gentleman and a scholar. I'll have to let my wife know that these are my credentials.
Tell her your BoomStick approved, my friend.
I like that. I like that you referred to him as a scholar.
Well, listen, you know what? Like I said, he's been a strong voice for your show, a strong voice in the community, and a positive voice. Something that seems to be lost in social media these days. Negativity sells, and I like his take. So, of course, I would don him the title of scholar. So, I hope it does you well, sir.
Appreciate it, man.
Well, listen, we're here to talk about Crackdown. I kind of want to just talk, kind of go over just a few little notes here that I wrote, and then we're going to start getting into the questions. As we all know, Crackdown 3 has been in development hell for quite some time. Xbox fans, more specifically, have had to suffer through 3+ delays on a game that was originally announced way back in 2014. Now, we know, again, this is all facts, folks. This isn't an opinion. We're going to get into opinions later, but we're going to get facts now. Two major factors surrounding the delays came at Crackdown 3 changing developers multiple times. And we are actually lucky that we have the game we do, because in my opinion, having too many changes usually and by all rights will ruin a game. And of course, the original Cloud Tech developers, CloudGen, were purchased by Epic Games, and they worked on Crackdown 3 from scratch. And they actually were heavily involved in that tech demo that you saw where he was shooting through the wall and eventually was able to walk through the wall. And there's no doubt that because of that purchase and they being removed from the project, it definitely put more pressure on Microsoft. Now, I'm going to say this, and this is also fact. Phil Spencer is solely responsible for saving Crackdown 3. I'm sure there was talk about just canceling the project altogether, and because of other, cancellations, it would have been, like the Scalebound and the Fable Legends and a few other ones that were in the background. This would have been a massive black eye on top of already the tons of bruises that Microsoft has taken a beating from the gaming public as well as the media. And Crackdown 3 may not be anyone's game of the year, but with that said, it does deserve a proper judgment, and I don't think it got that. But we're going to get into that. Now, I've personally played hours of the single-player campaign, which I beat Monday evening. And the Crackdown series for me has always been what I loved about the Xbox platform. It runs in its own lane. It's very stylized with its graphics. It plays like a big-budget action film, and it's something that it's not your everyday title. So what I'm going to do is I'm kind of just want to go into the questions first. I'm going to start with you, Enrique. In your opinion, was Crackdown 3 unfairly judged to the point of over-critiquing on delivering the Crackdown title?
I reviewed the game, and my opinion on the game was that it was an okay game. There was moments I had fun playing it. There's moments where I just hit walls, and I just was like, why am I doing this? In reviewing the reviews that I read, the Kotakus, the IGNs, the GameSpots, Trusted Reviews, I think Trusted actually gave it a pretty good review. I think they praised it on platforming. The things that it did well, I think they really praised and focused on those aspects. But I don't think it was judged unfairly. I mean, I think that obviously, this game is judged based on today's standards and the genre that the game sits in.
Right.
And, look, I mean, this, at this point in the console cycle too, where we have, so many games that have come out prior to not just Crackdown 3, but if you look at some like Anthem, which isn't reviewing well, these games are getting held to a higher standard because of everything. Because one, how the genres have evolved over the last. If you look at Crackdown, how the genre has evolved over the last 12 years since the first one came out, and then if you look at the evolution of this console gen and games that have come out up till 2019. A lot of the reviewers are taking into account the games that they've played, that these games, or the genres that these games fall into. They're taking into account those kinds of things too. I can't say I don't think it was judged harshly. I look at it like this, like there's parts of reviews that are very much based on facts, and there's other pieces that are subjective, and I think that. I don't think if Boom, if you were to give the game an 8.0, an 8 out of 10, I wouldn't say you're wrong. But I wouldn't necessarily say that IGN was wrong for giving it a 5 out of whatever it was, 5 out of 10, and saying that it's a mediocre game, or saying that it's an okay game or an average game. Because at the end of the day, that's the experience that end user had with that particular game. And that's what they're giving us. And so I don't think it was judged harshly. I understand the argument of, I think one of the things that came up was like, oh, well, it's the same as Crackdown 1, and Crackdown 1 was like an 80 Metacritic, right?
83. Yeah.
But we've got to remember, the genre has evolved over the last 12 years, and our taste as gamers have evolved for the most part.
Yes, that's true.
And I think, but I will say this. I mean, I think most reviews that I read said if you're a Crackdown fan, you're going to enjoy the game. And I enjoyed the first Crackdown. I enjoyed this one not as much as the first one. But what I've seen, though, the consensus is amongst people who really are Crackdown fans. I think So Shady said it before we went live. He's a crackhead. I mean, if you're a fan of it, you're going to enjoy it. So, I don't put a lot of stock, and I don't treat reviews as gospel.
I agree with you. Yeah, that's a great point. I treat them
as information pieces. And I understand that there's pieces of review that are based on facts, and there's the other piece that's based on an opinion, meaning what that reviewer's experience was and how they interpreted what they were playing. Because we all interpret things differently. Like, Boom, you may say, Enrique, Shake Shack's the ultimate. I might be like, what, Boom, I don't know, man. Like, I'm not a big Shake Shack fan. I like, I like Five Guys. I mean, so there's that aspect of taste that goes into reviews, and we have to think about that. But I don't think there was this hit out on the game. I don't think.
No, I don't. I agree with you there. I mean, we've talked about this. We kind of, both of us have an understanding and maybe a slightly different opinion of the media. Mm-hmm. I've agreed with you. There's no one sitting in the corner like a bad guy going, "This, we're gonna screw Microsoft again."
Yeah,
there's no evil, overlord looking to screw Microsoft. Yeah. I am going to say though, I don't know what it is. I'm not ever going to, you'll never hear me spew out, well, they're getting paid by Sony, which is ridiculous. There are people that claim it, and I do not believe it. But I just sometimes, like I said, we'll go further into detail why I think it got the way it was and whatever. But, listen, I'm going to say this, and you just really knocked it out of the park. If you're a Crackdown fan, you enjoyed the game. Now, again, it's probably not going to show up in anyone's, game of the year circle talks. I totally get that, but I can assure you that it's going to show up in Boom's top 10 of 2019, simply because I've played hours upon hours and I've loved every minute of it. But great point, dude. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like part of what's gotten lost in the conversation is that people have really focused so much on the score. And that's the one thing I hate about reviews is the numerical value that's assigned, because I feel like a lot of times that people don't, you look at read the actual review, like read the meat and potatoes of the review, what's said, because I think you get people are just gonna look at the score and just if it's a 9, that means it's a great game, and that's not always true, because how many 9s? I mean, there's been times where I've played games that are 9s. That I was like, ugh, I didn't like this, Mm-hmm. Persona 5 is a game that scored high, and I know people that can't stand it, that hate it.
I bought it. I tried it, dude, and after 3 hours of riding the train, I traded it in. I mean, listen, I gave it a shot. I never played a Persona game, and I'm like, you know what? This looks amazing.
Yeah.
Joker is a cool ass character.
Yes.
Let me get in on this. And I tried it. You know who I tried it because I always heard Luca talk crazy good about it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? Let me give this a shot. And I'm playing it. And I'm like, okay, maybe it gets better after 2 hours. And by hour 4, I'm like, you know.
Yeah,
I'm gonna just I've ridden the train now, I think 71 times. I'm just gonna pack it in and call it a day. And you know what? I'm okay with that because at least I tried it. See, my problem with a lot of the stuff that goes on social media, which you really cannot take, you have to really take that stuff with a grain of salt. These are folks, and I'm not gonna call them names, they're entitled to their opinions, everyone is, but you can't make a valued opinion if you do not play the game. And that's
I agree with that. Yeah,
that is a lot of the nonsense that's been going on. If you've sunk 4 hours into a game and you're like, this is just not my bag or it sucks, you have my full, you're getting a hug out of Boom, because at least you gave it a shot and say it's just not for me. But you cannot turn around and make an opinion based on watching someone play the game. that is outrageous.
Yeah. I just want to say one more thing real quick.
Sure.
I do think what's gotten lost in this discussion though is, and I go back to when the game first released in 2007 versus 2019, 12 years later, the bar is set higher now for these open world sandbox games. And and that's just the reality of the world that we live in. It doesn't mean that you can't enjoy the game. It just means that when reviewers are making these reviews, they're benchmarking, as they do with all games, versus where the genres evolve to and what's out right now. And you're seeing that with Anthem. I mean, I think Anthem's
Grand Theft Auto 4 being around the same kind of window as Crackdown. Grand Theft Auto 4 is insane. It's on a totally different level. So I'm not sure what the genre is. The genre is Crackdown genre. It's open world, but it's not Grand Theft Auto. It's never once even come close to trying to emulate that at all. It's an open world. There's a city there. I'll give you that. That's where it ends. Otherwise, it's like a giant playground of destruction that has orbs that you collect that people love. It's almost as simple as that. It's like the Tetris of open world. It's just simple. And I think like if it got an 8 back in the day side by side next to Grand Theft Auto 4, why can't it get an 8 today sitting side by side next to Red Dead Redemption?
Because the genre has evolved now.
The genre was at Grand Theft Auto 4 is evolved. That's my point. That's not at Crackdown level. Grand Theft Auto 4 is an insanely advanced open world game.
I don't think
Grand
Theft Auto 4 is a good comparison for Crackdown.
That's what they're comparing Crackdown today to, is the current Grand Theft Auto S, the GTA 5s, the Red Dead Redemptions, the stuff like that.
I mean,
like
that's
not
fine.
being compared. It's not being compared to toned down, fun first, arcadey.
Okay, well, I can name 2 games right now that came out around the time the first Crackdown came out, and that are within pretty much the same genres, the same kind of game that both the original Crackdown dev as well as these other games were basically going for. So you take the first Infamous and Prototype. If you guys remember Prototype,
I love Prototype.
So,
loved it.
Even both of those games do have way more narrative. They are trying for a more narrative focused and driven open world experience. They are out the gate. Crackdown isn't. It's simple, and I think the lack of that narrative is what makes it fun. You're not bogged down by it. You're not trying to remember why you're on this mission at all. Your friends come over and they don't want you to turn it off because they're not there yet, and it's spoiler sensitive. It's just a fun game. And I think that's why people enjoy it. And I don't think it was reviewed that way at all. I think it was reviewed by being compared to every other game, as you guys on the show are right now even. You're not looking at it for what it is. You're looking at it for what it isn't.
I mean, I looked at it. I mean, when I reviewed it, I like I said, I enjoyed it. I had fun, but it's not. The gameplay loop was just too repetitive for me. And
Did you play it in co-op, or were you playing it single player?
I played it single player because I had a review code. So
that's another part. Like the co-op is a huge part of this series, to run around with your buddy and to see them throwing a car down and smashing stuff. Like that is a huge part of the fun that I don't think reviews today almost even acknowledge, is that, hey, this is a real thing. A lot of people look at the series as, if I'm not playing with my friend, I'm not playing at all. That's Crackdown for them. And that's a big of it for me. So I wouldn't be playing it single player all the time and have as good of a time as I speak that I do now and that's because I play with friends. It's absolutely fantastic that way, and I think that needs to be taken into account, and reviewers don't.
Well,
Everyone plays alone, but it's a co-op game.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's. I mean, look, let me just say this, Slomo. I want to get your opinion on this. The review, of course, as we know, any reviewer, because we all do reviews one way or another. In fact, we do reviews almost all the time because we're talking about games on our shows, right? So we're going to give you our judgment of it, and it's our basically opinion, and that's really what I want to break down now. Again, this is an opinion is completely subjective. But I'm gonna be completely honest, Lomo. When you've seen a couple of the videos, like from IGN, when they were talking about the game, or GameSpot, being a police officer for one of the things that you learn on the job is body language. And you're not taught that. That is something that's learned over the course of going out there and just doing that job and being a paraprofessional. And it's something I was very, very, very in tuned. And I'm going to say this: when I watched those videos, the conversations they were having with one another and the body language they were showing, it seemed as if they didn't want to be there. This was a complete bother. Now, when you go into something like, okay, let me just say this, and of course, I want to hear your take on it. When you're going to pick up a controller to play a game, and it's a game that is it's just not your bag, or it's something that you have really no interest in playing. It's like you trying to do a review on a game that is not your genre. Points are going to come off because right off the top, it starts at 10. And points are automatically removed mentally because it's not your bag. It's not the kind of game you want to be there or you want to play. And that's the feeling I got from both of them, both those those media houses, where the guys that were reviewing the games, it seemed as if it was a bother. Now, I'm not sure if you saw the videos, but
no, I haven't seen them though.
Oh yeah, it's irrelevant at this point. But do you think there's any truth to what I'm saying regarding, I'm not saying they went out of their way to hurt Crackdown. No, it's their subjective opinion. But when you start off, at an 8 instead of starting off at a 10 because you don't want to be there, could that be an issue?
That could be an issue, and I do believe we've seen that in multiple cases for multiple games, and even with Anthem recently, where not necessarily people didn't want to be there, but they came into and going on with Anthem as an example. Anthem is being treated more harshly in terms of story and other elements that, say, Bungie and Destiny and Massive and Division weren't treated because of who the developer is. Absolutely. Because it's BioWare. Because BioWare makes great games, great story-driven games.
Yes.
Why is the story in this game not great? And it's like, you're not judging the story for what it is. You're judging it because it's not Mass Effect.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so
great point. There
are cases where we see that with reviewers. We see that with people who have influence, content creators who say, hey, look, I'm not feeling it. But you can tell by their previous postings and their previous thoughts prior to reviewing the game, they weren't feeling it before they even touched it. So that could be the case, absolutely, with Crackdown. And we look, let's just keep it real. Let's keep it real. We knew there are plenty of people that didn't like Crackdown, did not like the things how it showed at game was it Comic-Con?
Yeah,
that was terrible.
I mean, and it's like ever since Comic-Con, it's been like this like it's been a punchline for a lot of people.
Yeah,
punchline for a lot of communities. And we're all human. Reviewers are human too. They can try to pretend that they're trying to be objective, but at the end of the day, you keep seeing everyone saying Crackdown sucks, and the game isn't coming out for 8 months. It's going to get some reviewers to actually have as you said, start at 100 and start taking points off before they even play the game. Now, for me personally, I played the game. I had fun immediately. It took me a minute to get back into the Crackdown mode. I played the first one, didn't play the second one, but I played the first one, and really enjoyed the first one. It was a surprise for me because I bought it, as probably the most of us did. We bought the game because it came with a Halo demo.
Yes, absolutely.
So that Halo demo got you in, and it turned out the game was actually pretty good to play. And so, for me, I really enjoyed playing the game, but then there are some things that for me I have to take some points off for, even though I really enjoyed the campaign. I do like the fact that they added more narrative too, and you know me, I'm a story driven guy.
Yes,
I love games that got great stories. I love to be able to get immersed in the game. I do like that they made it a little bit more story driven with the different villains and Terra Nova Corporation. Some of the other villains, speaking to you when taunting you and giving threats whenever you would take down a particular like factory or whatever. Mm-hmm. But it got, for me, so here's one issue that I had, and I'm gonna say this as someone who I think anyone who reviews a game should not look at it for like how I feel personally about the game, but how the audience should take what I'm saying, because the review isn't for you, it's for other people. And so for me, when I played it, I look at the fact that I picked up 3 guns. One was a homing rocket launcher. The other one, I can't remember the name of it, but basically it shot like this poison dart or poison bullet.
Yes.
And then it would like,
that was my favorite weapon.
Yeah, it would detonate like a second later, and it have AoE damage. And the third was like this carpet bomb rocket launcher, grenade launcher that I would use. Mm-hmm. I got those 3 within the first 2-3 hours. I never changed guns after that. And although I think that's a slight design, like for me personally, I wouldn't design the game that way. I think those kind of guns I would actually try to introduce them later on in the campaign. Yeah. Because I didn't get challenged at all, and I like a challenge. And after I got those guns, there was just no challenge whatsoever. I was just blowing everything up.
Difficulty. You got to crank that difficulty up, but actually scale's pretty high.
Yeah, I was gonna say that there's certain armor types and stuff, and if you have the higher difficulty on, like I've shot in rocket launchers at enemies and they just kind of shrug it off. But if you shoot like the biohazard crap at them, it melts their armor like super quick. It's pretty cool.
That biohazard gun I had where it would detonate like a second later after impact. That was pretty much like my primary weapon. That and the homing rocket launcher. But I didn't think having those guns available early was a good deal. But I do kind of also agree with Enrique with like I was having a lot of fun in the beginning, and then near the end it was kind of like, I want to finish the game because I always want to finish every game I play, but I didn't really feel like as hyped and having as much fun as I was in the beginning. I still finished it and completed the game, and actually really enjoyed the final boss battle. Love
the ending too.
And the ending was really good, and I like how I'm not going to spoil it, but the setup for things
don't spoil it, man.
I don't do that. But the setup for things in the future was what I thought was well done as well. Mm-hmm. The Wrecking Zone, I didn't want to play it. I'll be honest with you, like not having the friends thing was
that's an epic fail, dude, for sure. There's no doubt about it. I have it's actually a bit of a head scratcher, to be honest.
Yeah, but I did try it, and I could not get into it at all. It's I'm running through walls, and they're like falling like paper and glass, and I'm just like, this isn't what I anticipated it would be. The lock on, I didn't really care too much for the lock on. Like I know
that's a lot of people's issue, dude. A lot of people don't dig it.
Yeah, and it's but I think that's for me personally, if they would have just completely just shelved the multiplayer until later, like kind of do like a staggered release. You know how like
they could have did exactly what GTA did with 5, and they did with and
Red Dead 2.
Yes, exactly.
Come out with the campaign first, let everyone play through the campaign, then come out with the multiplayer when it was ready. It's clearly not ready when you don't have lobbies, you can't play with friends. It's not ready. Why
Right.
would you release that now? And I think that really also hurt the game as well in reviews. And that's a legitimate concern that we understand. Like when you can't play with players, your friends, and it's a multiplayer game.
No, you pay
Even
$60 a
like
year for Xbox Live to play with your friends. So yes, that is
Exactly.
definitely an issue for sure.
Yeah, but look, if you are, I would say to anyone who's listening, you are a Crackdown fan, you're going to enjoy this game. It's a game. It's exactly what Crackdown was originally, and it just with some prettier flashier lights and
Terry Crews.
probably a little bit bigger world than Terry Crews.
Yeah, and Terry Crews is awesome for sure.
but just skip the multiplayer.
Yeah,
it's not worth.
well, I mean, listen, it's something we could revisit later on. It would have been better for sure if it was, like you said, a staggered release. But real quick, I have to say a big thank you to Bear999com for the outstanding $5 super chat. They said, I beat Crackdown 3 campaign and I give it a solid 7. Super fun, great boss fights, but short and needs more things to do. Didn't play the multiplayer, not his bag. Yeah, listen, I completely understand that. I mean, that's listen, again, no one's strong arming anyone to play anything, but Shady, I want to kind of get your opinion on this because I know that you had an absolute outstanding time playing multiplayer. In fact, you got all 500 achievement points, as well as you've been playing the shit out of the campaign. Why don't you tell us what your thoughts on Crackdown 3 were, and in your opinion, do you think it was overly judged? Again, in your opinion, by the media.
Okay, I'll start with the multiplayer, as a lot of people just didn't play it at all, and I think that's been heavily critiqued as well. I played that in the tech tests, and I got absolutely destroyed for like 5 matches straight, trying to just figure out what the game was doing, what button did what. Oh, reload is on the left bumper, not X, so I'm not running into every other firefight with half a clip and getting wrecked by that. Figuring out what the power-ups actually powered up, what the power-ups do as well. Like all of that thing. There is a learning curve to this game, and the more I've played it, the more I enjoy it, and the more I absolutely dominate. Like it actually has a meta to it that needs the lock-on. It doesn't sound good, multiplayer lock-on. It needs it. How the hell are you going to hit me when I'm running around crazy top speed and then just leap into the air literally 8 stories? And then I'm dashing triple side over to the left and then falling down with a huge ground and pound. It's impossible. You cannot even play the campaign without the lock-on. You can shoot at the enemies. That's fine. They'll hit them every now and then. But efficiently, it's not happening. The lock-on is built into Crackdown's DNA, and in the multiplayer, it is absolutely necessary. Once you get good, literally get good, because you need to give it a bit of time and figure it out. You're dashing around the buildings, breaking through these paper thin walls, quote unquote, and you're breaking the other guy's locks. It takes 2, if not 3 guys on the other team to take me down now, because I evade so efficiently, break their lock, all the while turning around and wrecking ass. Like, it is actually good. Is it downgraded from what was shown at that IGN thing? Absolutely. Without a shadow of a doubt. It is not what was shown before. It did change. They said it changed way before it came out. We knew it changed and still held it against it anyways, which I'm not a fan of that either. The engine is totally different. When CloudGen was bought, they didn't just leave the project working on it. They took the engine.
Yeah,
so Microsoft had to use their own out of nowhere. So we're lucky we got a multiplayer component at all. Is it for everybody? Absolutely not. No multiplayer is, no game is. But I think for anyone who's willing to give it the chance and play it for a while to figure it out, you will actually have a really good time with it. It's fun. I think the loads are too long myself. It takes too long to find a match and then takes too long to load it. My other big gripe is a community gripe. Too many people quit. They just quit because probably I'm destroying them instantly. But I don't know what it's like. They just quit. I've never played a game where more people quit in a multiplayer mode than this. I mean, there's no rankings. There's nothing on the line. You're not risking a time ban or anything. So people just walk in. It's not instantly what they like, or they get wrecked and they're out. So that sucks big time. And then I had a lot of fun getting all the achievements. Actually, the worst time I had playing this multiplayer mode was trying to get the one achievement, which was get a kill with every single gun in a single match. My only problem with it was the match goes to 25 kills in the Agent Hunter mode, and that's just too fast. It's over in the blink of an eye. It just doesn't take too. You couldn't do it. I was leaving the badges from the guys that I was killing, and my teammates were behind me grabbing them, I'm screaming at my TV, at my teammates basically, stop grabbing my fucking badges, stop following me around, stop tag teaming my guys. Basically, I'm screaming at them to stop doing what I'm normally screaming at my teammates to do in like battlefields, are basically hurry up and please help me. Please give me some, some assistance out here, you bastards. In Crackdown, the teammates are on point, man. Like, it's built for team play, which is why a lot of people are upset that you can't play with your friends. And after all the time I put in, I mean, on the optics level, that sounds bad again, but I think honestly, it was a design choice. Because if you get 2 or 3 guys that know what they're doing and are working together at all, you almost can't beat them. It's so hard. It's so, by putting a bunch of strangers in these matches, it makes it so it kind of breaks it down. Like, again, it sounds so bad. Why would you want to break down the cooperativeness of a team play deathmatch? And it's because in this specific game, it kind of works a bit better with the chaos. I think the game is missing a free-for-all mode. Give me a free-for-all, because the game is built for that type of thing, and it's missing. So I would like that. I would like to play with my friends, but once that happens, man, the teams that have 2, 3, 4 buddies, they're going to be almost unstoppable unless going up against another team that is the same deal. And when they do, I've had a few matches where my team is on point, so is the other guys. By a miracle, no one quit, and the match was phenomenal. It was a big back and forth. It was an actual brawl because the guys know how to dodge and get out of the way. Like, there is a good meta to this game. Check it out. Don't write it off because it doesn't look as pretty as it did over a year before it came out. And that's my take on the multiplayer.
Well,
when it comes to
that's a great point. No, keep going, dude, because I just wanted to say that is, when you break it down like that, it really entices me to want to jump headfirst into the multiplayer, and you know what, that might entice others. So that was a really well described experience that you had with the multiplayer.
Well, I was going to just address the destruction quickly. Yeah, it felt like it was almost non-existent for a long time until I started not using the lock-on the buildings. If a guy is up top and he's standing on a building, I just aim in his direction and unload my explosives. The building is coming down, and it is knocking shit down below it all over the place. The one achievement that I did enjoy getting a lot was play an entire match where you don't die. So instantly, I jumped onto the tallest building I could and just hid there. So I let my team down, of course, because I'm a non-player. But I sat up top and just watched this go down. And bit by bit, this was early. I tried to get this one, and people were quitting still. And my team lost 2 players. So there was myself up top of a building, and then 2 guys down trying to fight a team of 4. So my team was getting destroyed, and I was hoping that it was going to end really fast so I could get this achievement. And it turns out that the 2 guys on my team didn't like going up against 4 guys, so they quit. So it was just me versus 4 guys. So they start tearing the map apart trying to find me, and they realize I'm on top of the building, and I don't know what they were doing below me, what they were hitting specifically, but the entire tower, the tallest towers in the multiplayer mode, started crumbling instantly, falling over sideways, knocking over the ship beside it. Again, was it as impressive as that IGN footage? No, but it was impressive nonetheless. I have seen huge stuff fall down, unlike any other game I've ever played. The destruction in this game is impressive compared to other games. They could have made it look better. That's a graphics choice that they decided to make. They could have what do you call it there? Put the textures on the stuff that's blowing up and made it look lifelike if they wanted. Made it look as good as Agent Jackson's face, which is obviously Terry Crews. There's no imagination needed there. You know what I mean? They decided to go with this look, which is a simplified Tron aesthetic. Hate it or don't. I don't know what to say, but the destruction is impressive when you actually play it for more than one match and give it a chance to actually, show itself off. But that's the multiplayer. For the review aspect, I am a huge proponent of all reviews today. They judge games. They are hugely opinionated, whereas in the past, I felt they were there to inform gamers what the game has on offer. And then at the end, the guy doing the review said, and by the way, myself, I'd give it maybe a 7 out of 10. That number was nowhere near as important. It was the content of the review, when he described maybe how long it was, when they described the music in the game, when they appreciated the graphics for what they were, when they looked at the fun factor as an actual quantifiable thing. Like, reviews in the past were better. Today, it's a gong show. I can't stand them at all. They hold way too much power. We've all seen these reviewers' gameplays. It looks like they're playing with their goddamn feet. It's insane. And yet we're going to take their opinion at the end of the day. We watch them play, and it's like, oh my God, you're a joke casual. By the way, what review did you give it? Because you work at GameSpot, that means something. And then we're going to let 60 other people that are basically just as casual, that treat the industry as if it's just a job that they're a bummer to wake up and go to. And those 60 guys get a dictated Metacritic that everyone else, the hardcore gamers, are like, yep, that's the one. That's the number now that I'm going to run with. It's not good because casuals said no. I can't stand it. Even on this own panel, it was the genre has evolved. What genre? Open world games? They were huge back then. Like I said, my example was GTA 4. That game is huge. Many people even think that the physics engines while driving and stuff in that game are better than the new ones. Like, it was no joke. GTA 4 was no joke. Honestly, neither was Saints Row. Those are trying for a different experience. Crackdown has always, since day one, been on its own. It wasn't like the Spider-Man games back in the day. It wasn't like anything else back in the day. It's being compared to superhero games today for some reason. Is it because I can jump 20 stories? So it's a superhero game now? I don't understand this. Judge it for what it is. It's a Crackdown game, and it is much better than the previous Crackdown games. It is a brand new city. It looks way, way better than those old games do. The movement has been improved with the triple jump, the triple dash. There's way more orbs, which this game is known for being one of its main cornerstones, is the collectibles. People actually want them.
Yeah, and again, the weapons as well. I mean, it's a significantly amount of weight. It almost reminded me of Ratchet and Clank. I mean, obviously not as extreme, but the difference in weapons and grenades and
fantastic.
Yeah,
it's a huge variety, actually. Like, I love the replicator. You pick up anything in the world, you hit the replicate button, you toss the item, and now with just one bumper press, I can make another one and throw it around. I mean, Slow-Mo, you said you used those 3 guns for the whole campaign, and that was that. I mean, that's a you problem, man. Get creative, dog. There's so many more guns, and the fact that they give them all to you at the very beginning. You just got to go and kill a guy that has it. There is no progression outside of the orbs and you're building up, which is another part of this campaign or this game, this whole series that is bizarre. You start off as a clunky weakling. You can't jump over a damn truck. You can't pick up a trash can. You can't shoot shit. It's weird. Give it an hour or two of orb collecting and shooting and killing guys, blowing guys up with your grenades, and all of a sudden you're jumping 2-story buildings. You can aim at guys' arms instead of just their chest. So when you hit him in the arm, he drops his gun and now he's unarmed. You can shoot them in the legs to take them down that way. You can aim at their head and take them down even quicker. There's many different enemy types in this game that are immune to certain weapon types and not others. I found the boss fights and the areas you go in, yes, they're repetitive, but that again adds from what Crackdown had before and evolved that part of the game. It's big, it's bright, the city is twice as tall. Just the design of the buildings alone is amazing. It's fun to explore. The entire game has this underlying current of dark humor, which I appreciate a lot. The agent guy, the main dude that talks to you and hypes you on as you're out there kicking ass, he makes me laugh all the time.
Yeah, he's funny.
Terry Crews, he makes me laugh all the time. Hashtag fuck gravity. Like, I'm down with what this game is doing. It's not Red Dead Redemption in its presentation and its storytelling. It's not The Last of Us. But we sure as shit had Ryan McCaffrey from IGN before the game coming out saying, well, the game isn't our Last of Us, everybody. No shit, Ryan McCaffrey. No shit. No one expected it to be. It's never tried to be games like that. Ever, ever, ever. So why does it have to today? Why? It's a better looking, better playing, bigger Crackdown. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. First of all, let me just say this, Shady. You completely knocked it out of the park, dude. That was what we heard was not a fanboy. What we heard is someone that actually played the game and enjoyed it and gave their opinion. But you know what? I want to get Tempest's opinion. I know you've been dying to jump in here. We were talking pre-game. You had a lot of nice things to say about the game. Now, listen, understand that this show isn't made to either pump up or pump down Crackdown. We have a bunch of people on this opinion on this panel that I truly, truly appreciate and of course respect their opinions. Some are going to be higher, some are going to be lower. But you know what? At the end of the day, we're all going to break it down as to what our end score when we get on out of here in a little bit. But take it away and let me know what you thought about the game, Tempest.
Well, first of all, before I get into some of the details on the game, like quite literally, I just want to say thank you to Xbox team or Phil Spencer. I mean, these guys aren't stupid. This game was not a mistake. This game, they didn't just shoot out a game and say, "Oh, well, it's Crackdown, but it's it's a reimagining." No, bullcrap. It's Crackdown 3. It's right in the title. I mean, like, what do you expect? I mean, let's say in the Sony camp, let's say Polyphony, I think it's called. Let's say they released the new trailer for their next game, and all of a sudden, Gran Turismo handles and looks like a Ridge Racer game. I mean, what are people expecting? People would be like, what the heck is this crap? This isn't Gran Turismo. This isn't my, favorite racer of all time. It'd be completely different. This is Crackdown 3. This isn't, Crackdown, hyphen the Grand Theft Auto, wannabe. It's nothing like that. So I want to thank Phil for just releasing a game that only had maybe 1 or 3 million fans, some maybe more, maybe less, who knows? But, he's a fan of the game and there is fans of this series, and he released the game for us. People can love or hate it. Yeah, that's fine. The other thing I want to say is, I see it in a lot of these reviews at the end of it. They're like, well, it's in Game Pass, so just go give it a try. They act like it's a bad thing. What other platform can I preload a new AAA game for a subscription price of $10 and have it there day and date at 12 midnight? 12 hit, I hit the button, bam, I was playing a brand new game I would otherwise on other platforms have to spend, $65 on after tax. It's changing the game. Maybe some reviewers don't like it. I mean, how many YouTubers literally make their career off of negative videos based off of, oh, this game has microtransactions. I don't know. This is terrible. I mean, it's all like negative base, and they're like they say they're protecting your bottom dollar, right? I mean, that's their big spiel is, microtransactions, bad. And then they just hammer these companies. Well, meanwhile, you have Microsoft. Love it or hate it, they are changing the game. I mean, yeah, you can judge the game off of it being $60, but is Microsoft really advertising that? No, every single advertisement is play it now in Game Pass. They want you in Game Pass playing this game. And how much does Game Pass cost? It's $10 a month if you pay the base fee, regardless of any kind of deal you might have got on it. So it's just, to me, it does totally change the game. So for me, I don't want to give Microsoft a pass if they release something subpar and just say, oh, it's in Game Pass, so that's fine. Many people might look at it like that, but I'm sorry, but $10 a month for their games day and date. I mean, Gears 5 is coming, Halo Infinite, the new Ninja Theory game. If you think for 1 second those aren't going to be fantastic games, I think you're loony. Like, seriously, they're going to be awesome games, and you're going to be able to preload them and play them just like Crackdown. So when I think of Crackdown as a $10 game, it makes it all the more sweeter. Absolutely. And lastly, on the game itself, I think it's a blast, man. It's a really good time. I mean, Shady, personally to me, Shady said it best. I really can't add too much more. I mean, there's a few things I might have rather have liked in there. Like, the only thing I can really point at is when I play these open world games, one of the biggest things I enjoy watching is the NPCs. I like looking at their funny humor, or they said this or they say that, and it just makes me laugh seeing how they interact with each other. There's not too much of that in this game, and I think this game would be primed for that, just seeing the way it looks and everything else. I think it would be a fantastic just to see more interaction with the NPCs and how they might deal with each other,
I
something of that
agree.
nature.
The NPCs, they're almost just zombies walking around, but they do yell a lot when you're jumping around. They're blown away at your agent's abilities, and that's almost it. But they don't do anything with each other, which is unfortunate. But they never did. Like, it's not that type of game, right? It's not trying to get that immersive of an open world city. It's just kind of like they're there to be there. Whereas I would say Batman is trying to be insanely immersive, but goes out of its way to find a reason to get the people the hell out. You know what I mean? Or as cool as it is that they're there in Spider-Man, at the end of the day, whatever. It's just a bunch of people in t-shirts walking around. Oh, whatever. But with Crackdown, I think it just delivered a perfect Crackdown.
Yeah, no, that is true. I mean, the only game if you really want to like a real comparison and say, hey, this is like a sister game to Crackdown, it'd probably be Saints Row, especially Saints Row 4.
Yeah, Saints Row. Yeah, it's a great point, dude. Fantastic point.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you haven't played Crackdown yet, but you've played Saints Row or Saints Row 3, Saints Row 4, maybe you'll really like Crackdown 3. I mean, it's a great game. I love the music. I wasn't expecting to groove to the music as much as I did, but I do really like the music. Some of the sound effects, I mean, if you really want to break down the Metacritic score and look at what some reviewers are saying, this is another thing I almost wanted to ask the panel. I mean, when you break down things like music, sound, like I think most of the gun sounds are kind of weak. I'm a big sound buff. I said that last time I was on Breakfast at Boom. I love sound. It's a huge deal to me. So some of the gun sounds sound, a little weak. Terry Crews, for whatever reason, is kind of buried in the audio mix. I don't know why.
Yes, yeah, I agree. That's a great point because I'm a huge Terry Crews fan.
Yeah.
I love his sense of humor. Obviously he just joined as the host of America's Got Talent. He's going to do big there. I love all his movies. He's just a big presence. He's a big voice. And I agree with you. If I had to critique, if I was giving a critique on Crackdown 3, I'd say I'd want more actual one-liners that you can actually hear from Terry Crews.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, there's things that, and some of it is even like, I think the graphics, believe it or not, I think they're fantastic. They're just not the graphics of a Red Dead Redemption 2 or a God of War. It's like, what do you want? I mean, so that's kind of subjective. You can say if it's good or if it's bad. I mean, there's no issues with the graphics. And even though they're stylized, I would still say like, hey, these graphics are great. So if you were to look at like a review score, but what I wanted to ask the panel is, the whole purpose of playing games, I'd say there's two. One, you can have an experience. And two, you could just have fun. This is obviously one of the more quote unquote fun games. It's not really an experience, but like when you review a game, one of my favorite reviewers on YouTube is Carrick at ACG. He doesn't give a review score. At the end, one of his sections of the review is fun factor. I don't think enough people put emphasis on fun factor, to be honest with you. It's like, how much would you improve a score or knock it down at the end of the day if it's more or less fun? You know what I mean? It's just like, I don't think enough reviewers actually factor that in.
No, and when like he does it all. He's like sound, graphics, fun factor, gameplay. And when he looks at like the graphics, he doesn't give every indie game an instant 1 because it's garbage in comparison to Red Dead. He looks at it for what it is. It's an old retro style pixel art game. It's pulling it off. The graphics are bright. 8. Like, it's realistic. That guy nails how you do reviews. ACG on YouTube. Everyone needs to check that guy out, man.
Yeah.
And then real quick before I hand the mic back, Terry Crews, there's actually a lot of stuff in the game where he talks. You just kind of have to go around the buildings and the towers that you take over, and it starts broadcasting Terry Crews as like this agency propaganda. It's subtle, but if you do stand around and you do listen to it, some of the lines he drops are hilarious.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, like I said, this is one of those fun games. Like, I forget what year it came out, but let's say 2013, maybe it was, or 2012. One of my favorite games of that year was The Last of Us. Because of his experience, I found the gameplay to be terrible. Really bad. I'm going to get a lot of hate for that, but to me, the gameplay was almost a joke. But at the end of the day, it was an experience. It was a gut-wrenching experience. At the end, that ending, what Joel was willing to do to protect his, what he said, quote unquote, baby girl. And I love that, what he was willing to do made that game to me great, even though as a game, like I swear I couldn't really give it more than like a 7.5, 8 or something. And that entails where I get with Crackdown. I probably could only give Crackdown like a 7.5 or an 8, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it's so much fun, you know? So
well, I mean, listen. First of all, I want to say this: everybody had an awesome point of view, and again, I had a bunch of questions. I don't think we're going to get to all of them because everybody, you never know how these shows are going to go. I do have a question. I want to start off with Enrique. First of all, there is a level of, I guess, fantasism, if you will, surrounding social media when it comes to Crackdown 3 in the form of any internet bullying at some point. Since Crackdown 3 launched, and it's crazy. The one thing I've seen on social media is this pack mentality of hate and shaming that makes me very sad for the future. Now, obviously, I'm not going to say that people are being bullied. Like you see some of these horrendous stories in the news, and I can say that being a cop, a youth officer for almost my entire career, I dealt with internet bullying, and it was real rewarding to help people who felt like there was no one they could turn to. Trust me, the Mohawk helped with the kids, and I was one of the few cops in the NYPD that actually pulled it off. But my question to you, Enrique, is I had sent you guys in the DM a picture that was on Twitter, and it's just one sheet of paper, but it's 3 scenes, and in there it has 2 people sitting in front of a TV. They're stick people. It was very well done. I don't know who drew it, but it was fantastic. And there's someone that's standing behind them with a mean face saying, that game sucks, right? And it moves to the second scene, and it says something to the effect. In fact, I'm actually going to pull it up. It says, it's just the same game from 2007, and there are 4 people on. There's 3 people on the couch, and 1 person sitting there with a big smile on their face. And then the last one is the person yelling at the top of the lungs, "Stop having fun!" And look, we've seen this, and I know you guys are really like in tune with the community, which is really why I like you guys. The entire panel is fantastic, and that's why I really dig you guys, because you are in tune with the community. You do interact with the community, and you have a huge voice in the community. Did you see what I was seeing when it came to people hating on other people, and to the point of really just being horrible human beings simply because they were saying publicly that they enjoyed Crackdown 3?
I did, huge. And not only that, but I think a lot of that has to do with it being an exclusive game, to be honest, which is lame. But if this was a true multi-plat, Crackdown was always on everything from the get-go, people would accept it for what it is and wouldn't be looking at it like it needs to be some kind of a tentpole series. How come Crackdown is not $1 billion franchise like Gears and Halo and Forza? It's not trying to be. If it happened, I'm sure they would appreciate that, but it's not at that level. It's not trying to be. So I saw a lot of fun hating, and I think a lot of that really does stem from fanboy garbage, and that's unfortunate. So with exclusives, in my opinion anyways, coming to an end, at least exclusives as we know it, coming to an end sooner than later. I mean, I'd like to see a lot of that mentality go away just because that narrative is gone. But it happens even when it's not always an exclusive as well. There are some games that just get beat on, and how dare you enjoy it? Star Wars Battlefront 2 was a great example where there was an outrage because people were convinced that the microtransactions were easily abusive and was an instant win button. I love that game and have put in, almost 200 hours easy. It's kept me farther from the truth. In the hero mode, sure. In the other modes, not so much. But being a fan of that game, you were shamed. How dare you? You're telling EA that what they're doing is okay. There's a lot of that going on as well. It's just shaming on enjoying anything, because people are afraid that if you enjoy it, or you say that you enjoy it, and you don't spend your time bitching and screaming about what's wrong, these developers are getting the wrong message, and the next game they make won't improve at all because you had fun with the first one, so they'll just churn out another one exactly the same. And that's not the way it's gone down in history at all. Games constantly improve. This medium is on the up and up. We haven't plateaued, and we won't be plateauing for probably another 15, 20 years. I don't think we're plateauing until I'm in the Matrix, damn it. Mm-hmm. So, quite frankly, it needs to be toned down. Let people just enjoy their games for whatever the hell it is reason that they want to enjoy it. Simple as that. Someone wants to play Minesweeper and it's the best time of their life. Don't shame the guy for it because it doesn't have some giant narrative attached to it that has him crying at the end.
Hey, I love
everyone doesn't need it, right?
Yeah, I love Persona 5, but Boom ain't gonna shame me.
Yeah,
I do agree that shaming people is just really, it's a fanboy thing.
It's disgusting.
Fanboys that's doing it. Although I do have to disagree with Shady a little bit about Battlefront 2. Now I don't agree with anyone shaming people for playing Battlefront 2, but I do agree with the community getting together and coming together and saying we don't believe what's going on in this game is correct. How the game turned out eventually
happened, yeah.
Yeah, but how the game turned out eventually is due to the fact that like the fans said no, we're not going to spend a gazillion hours just to be able to unlock Luke Skywalker.
All that was addressed before the game launched. That was another.
Yeah, but that was only addressed because people stood up.
I know, but then it ran with it for the next 3 months. Everyone acted like Luke Skywalker still cost $60,000, and that was fixed before the game officially launched on the first day. That was early access and EA and stuff. Like it's EA doing it to themselves. They just did it with Anthem. They released a game that needs desperately a huge patch, but they give it out to people to play in full, release reviews on, and no wonder they're poor considering what had to be fixed and addressed. Like EA does it to themselves. They did it with Star Wars. A lot of people's issues were addressed before the game even came out, but they sure as shit weren't forgot, and that was still used as the ammo to hate on the game for the next, ever. Even to this day, still people are convinced that those purple cards are a win button. I take my purple cards out.
That's a lesson to be learned by developers. Then you only have
great
to make first. And if you don't, that's the backlash and the tidal wave of the shitstorm that's going to happen. It's unfortunate. I don't necessarily agree that if they fix things and address things that it can still happen, but it's unfortunate that we live in this era where everyone has, I shouldn't say everyone has a voice, but there's some people, look, they will shame on people for enjoying games. I don't agree with that. I think a lot of that's fanboy driven.
Yes,
garbage. Look, if you look, like I don't think Crackdown 3 is the best thing since sliced bread, right? But if you're having fun with it, you're having fun with it. I don't care. Like it doesn't impact me. Just like and I say this to people too. If you don't agree with the the review that IGN did, there's no reason to get angry at them. So long as you enjoy the game, that's all that matters. It's a difference of opinions, and that's it.
Slow-mo.
Yeah, we actually had this somewhat similar of a discussion on Brad last Wednesday, and I had
rated Xbox slow-mo.
Yeah,
stop it. That's the new name of the podcast.
And so we, I kind of went off on like how like some of these reviewers kind of like they inject their personal opinions too far into things in regards to like Anthem and stuff like that, and I really it took me back to something that. Back when Quantum Break first came out, I was interested in the game before it came out. Like the trailers and everything I saw had me really hyped. But then the reviews killed it so badly that it's just, this is, me not, not being a part of like a bigger community like I am now. And me still, of course, a hardcore gamer. I looked at it was like, you know what, this game's bad. I'm not going to play it. But then years later,
that's the difference is when IGN says the game's bad, they don't counter with, but So Shady said it was good. My opinion is my opinion, but IGN's opinion is shared with millions and millions of people. I think they have a responsibility to take their own personal whatever out of it and be more informative and less judgy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But judgy's part of a review, that's never changed.
They can just inform. They can just inform and let me judge by the information you've given. And there's also YouTube. You can also play
judge the information they're saying. You can
play these games now in Game Pass. You can play them in EA Access. You can watch footage.
But so
Shady, let me finish my point here. My point is that I played the game later on, and probably about a couple years ago, and realized I really enjoyed the game. And so, like a lot of the stuff that people were saying. A lot of stuff that, it really didn't. I don't know. It had multiple patches since then, but I enjoyed the game, and it really taught me a lesson of like, these reviews, I don't really care about what they say. I don't really care about what a reviewer says. And most of these people, they really don't even read all these reviews. They just go to Metacritic and look at the overall number and say, okay, it's either a masterpiece or it's trash.
Yeah, they shouldn't do that.
Yeah, and they shouldn't do that, but that's what they do. You know, like when a Skill Up comes out and says, "Hey, you know, I think Anthem is a bad game and it has a bad story," but then when you look into the meat of it, you realize Skill Up only beat the game in 15 hours, didn't do any side content, didn't talk to anybody in Fort Tarsus. It's like, how did you come to the conclusion the story is bad when you didn't even actually engage in the story?
At least it's in
like,
the game.
Yeah, you know, so like you really can't take these people. I do agree. ACG does a great job. I think he's probably the best reviewer there is. But I don't take these reviews to heart. You know, if I'm interested in the game, I'm going to play that game, and that's it. And, it really doesn't matter what the reviews say. If Anthem right now is a 65, if Crackdown is a 58, whatever.
It doesn't matter. I agree.
It does not matter. And I tell everyone out here, if you like a game, if someone else calls it trash, so what? Fuck them.
I think so, but like 60s and 70s, like if you're a fan of that genre, like Anthem, like we're fans of that looter shooter genre, and I picked up Anthem because I like that genre. You know, that's the 60s, 70s, like a score that dictates if you like those genres. Typically, you're going to like this game. When you start getting those 80s, 90s, you know, 10s, those rare 10s, those have to be games that transcend taste. You know, and I think that gets lost sometimes when people look at.
You know what, dude? That is wow, man. That is holy shit, dude. That is a fantastic point. I got to tell you, that really made the spark in my mind happen because let's just take Red Dead Redemption 2, right? It didn't even show up in my top 10 of 2018, and you say, well, wait a second, Boom, you're a fraud. No, I'm not. I put freaking 40 hours into that game. You know what? When I got the chapter, when I get up to the end of 4, I couldn't take it anymore. I could not take the game anymore. It just was so slow, and every mission was 2 hours. And I'm not saying it was a bad game. The game is a masterpiece. As a matter of fact, it's up there with The Witcher 3 as a genre-defining title. But with that said, just because it's a 10 doesn't mean it was for MrBooMStick. And what you're saying really does makes a big difference because a lot of people forget this. You know, Destiny 1, I sank over 1,000 hours into that game. You know what? People hated running around and collecting those chests, but shit, I did it until my hands were bleeding, and I would do it again. And what did it score on Metacritic? As it stands today, 7.1. Metacritic on that game. And look what happened when Taken King came out. It literally, like you said, transcended into something different. It was amazing. Everything was fixed. Guess what, folks? And I know this is not the Anthem, podcast, but you mentioned it, so I'm gonna have to step in because I'm right there with you. I've seen people shit all over this game from the beginning, and you know what? I put it 2 hours in last night. I was in on the alpha. I put 10 hours in there. I put about 7 hours into the 2 betas that were the demos, and I kind of got my feel of it. And I'm playing through so many other games. I'm like, you know what? Let me get into and see what this is. And let me tell you something. If you're a looter shooter dude, if you're a Division fan, if you are the Destiny fan, you're gonna dig this game. Borderlands. If you're gonna dig this game.
That line there, the 9s and 10s transcend, what was it, opinion or something like that? Like, it sounds nice, but it's immensely blanketed, man. Let's use movies as an example. Are movies, are they only allowed to get a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 if it's like Shawshank Redemption, crazy drama, gets people to get the feels? There can't be a comedy getting a 10 out of 10. An animated feature for the kids isn't allowed to get a 10 out of 10 because kids
no one's saying
adults.
That. No one's saying that.
They look at them for what they are. And 9 out of 10 kids movie isn't transcending anything. It's just a great movie for the kids. I recommend it. 9 out of 10. Get your kids to watch it. They'll enjoy it. That's all it is. It doesn't have to be some life-changing moment for your 7-year-old. It's a 9 out of 10 recommendation. No. Even in video games, indie games constantly get reviewed for what they are. Indie games get a fair shake. That's it. Everything else is looked at like, oh, it didn't change my life, and I don't know what just made me feel an emotion I've never had. It doesn't need that.
It's about the experience, and when I say trends, I mean that it hits people who have different taste, and that's what it is, and that's why you see those games that get 9s and 10s because they evolve outside of people who might not like. Let's say like Destiny, the original Destiny scored like a 10 or whatever, right? It's a looter shooter. It could be, and a 10, it could be one of those games that just brings people into that genre that might not be interested in that genre because it does all the things that specific subset of genre does well.
So did Celeste make old school retro platformer fans out of hardcore FPS fans because it was 10 out of 10 reviewed for Game of the Year?
That happens.
Game of the Year. Are you serious? I'm just saying they reviewed it for what it is.
That don't enjoy. I know people that didn't enjoy Western RPGs and play The Witcher. Think it's like the best thing since Jesus Christ coming to planet Earth.
That's fine. Like it's nice when it happens,
so
but that's not what's needed. That's not what's needed. I don't think
that's ridiculous.
That's not what's needed to get a 10 out of 10. Like I said, Celeste got a 10 out of 10. Was up for Game of the Year. It is a old school pixelated retro. That's it. 10 out of 10. Or the Walking Dead Telltale game. Game of the Year. Are you serious? The writing wasn't that bad. The acting wasn't that good. Like the graphics weren't that good. It's barely a game. That's my point. Is it was looked at for what it was.
Whoa, it's
and
barely
that's just a narrative
game.
storytelling. I know, man. For what it delivered, which was just an interactive narrative story. It was new. It was great. It was an honest opinion of that. It wasn't being compared to the Grand Theft Autos. And that's awesome. I applaud it for that. It didn't deserve Game of the Year, but it deserved high reviews. You know what, Shady, it deserves high reviews. I think any game can get a high review if it does what it's trying to do well. It doesn't need to transcend the medium. The Wii isn't a 10 out of 10 system because everyone in the world had one, including my grandma. It was garbage. It played garbage games on average and was everyone's doorstop. Like, let's be real.
Just the counter of that for a second. The Walking Dead season 1, they did kind of transcend in that year at that time, and now you see a whole bunch of different games that are doing something similar. But can we say that there were any other games really doing what that game did at that time?
Absolutely not.
Telltale itself had made games just like it. Back to the Future, Jurassic Park.
But those
weren't attached to a property like Walking Dead.
Those were not like. Those were not. Oh, I played those games, and they were not on the level of The Walking Dead.
Yeah, so, Walking Dead was something special, and in my personal opinion, deserved to win Game of the Year. I'm right there with you, Flomo. Simply because it took storytelling in gaming in a way that you'd only find in a book. Yes, I understand it had some interactive part, depending on what you consider a game. If a game is Grand Theft Auto and you don't consider Telltale games a game, well, then that's really it's subjective, to be honest with you. But I think that what you guys are talking about in regards to transcending, I think personally we saw something special in that game. We're talking about Telltale's The Walking Dead season 1. Season 2 was good, and then I kind of fell off a cliff after that. But season 1 was generationally defining, simply because, yes, we had some games from the company prior, but the license and the way that they told that emotional roller coaster of a story where you felt real attachment to characters, especially, my God, what is her name? The little girl. You had a tremendous attachment to her, and it just, when things were about to go the wrong way, that you were sitting there next to the reset button, like I'm gonna shut this off because I don't want this choice.
Is it Clementine? You mean? Is that Clementine?
Yeah, Clementine. Yes, thank you. To me, it was genuine. It took the genre in a way that it's never been before. It's again, we're not talking about The Walking Dead or even Anthem for that matter. We're here discussing Crackdown 3. I don't even know what the question was, to be honest with you, because
something to do with shaming, and then it just
thank you, because as a host, I'm kind of looking through the questions on my teleprompter.
We're good, man. We're good. I think we actually kind of like divulged off the point because we all agree that the shaming of people for enjoying certain games is just stupid fanboy bullshit. So
I agree. I mean, look, let me just say this, folks.
I don't agree with that at all.
I had somebody in the chat who seems to be a very nasty person, and I'm not gonna. I'm actually Lethal Papa's handling him right now. Look, here's the thing, dude. I'm not even gonna say his name because I don't want to embarrass anybody. And again, how I feel about the bullying and the shaming and stuff. So I won't even mention. Let me just say this to this particular person. First of all, I handle all of my business as a police officer with the utmost respect and professionalism in my 21 years. He said something about me. How dare I compare shaming on the internet to internet bullying? Well, yes, it's the same thing. It's just not constant.
Exactly.
There are different levels of it. You don't know that because you were not a police officer. I was. I read the patrol guide and I read the law and I understand the ins and outs of it. So just because it's Twitter and you see someone shaming someone and going after them relentlessly because they said they had a good time with Crackdown, that's considered cyberbullying. FYI, I just want to kind of throw that out there. But I don't want to give him any more spotlight because he's unnecessary. And I'm just going to say this last point: if you're unhappy with what's going on with this show, there's two things you can do. You can hit the thumbs down button, which I suggest that you do. And two, you can just leave the chat because the people here, the 160 people watching, or the 159 people that are here in the chat watching live now, just want to kind of hear about Crackdown 3, and they don't want to hear your unnecessary garbage. So if you're not happy, hit the thumbs down, unfollow me, unsub me, write me on Twitter, DM me, call me a dick, whatever you want to do. It's fine, but just leave the chat alone because I will defend them tooth and nail. Okay, they're here to have fun. They're not here to be, screwed around with by dicks like you. So just leave and be out. And again, I think I did that properly because I didn't even name the guy, but you know who you are. But anyway, let me just move on to because we're 15 minutes away from the end of the show, and everyone has had such incredible opinions about the game. They told their stories, what their feelings were, what their dislikes were, and I thought that I think the show was exactly what I wanted out of it. We wanted to come out here, talk about Crackdown without any media bias involved, with any personal feelings. It's just what you thought about the game, whether it's a 10 or a 2. At least everyone on this panel is being honest, and that's what I really wanted to do. And everyone is knocking it out of the park. But here's the last question of the day, and I think everyone's gonna run away with this because it's a lot to talk about, even though it's only a small question. First and foremost, I want to get everyone's score. That's easy. But in your opinion, this is where it's going to get a little long for your answers. We've already heard that Phil Spencer, as well as the developer, has talked about a Crackdown 4. My question to everyone on this panel, besides what your score is for Crackdown 3, is exactly, does the Crackdown series deserve to live on, and should there be a Crackdown 4? So I'll go with Enrique first.
I'd actually like to see a Crackdown 4. I thought one of the things that I took away from playing the game was that, especially with the inclusion of Terry Crews, where I felt like there was maybe a little bit of a missed opportunity with fleshing him out a little bit more as a character in the game. I'd like to see a Crackdown 4, but I'd like to see maybe the series evolve a little bit more. But I think there's a foundation there. I mean, for the game to evolve and be successful. I mean, I don't think it's a bad game. I think it's a good game. And I think, well, I don't want to say that because I might spoil it, but I think there's a possibility we could see Crackdown 4. I really do. And I think the foundation's there for that. Just like I think there's a foundation for Rise too, but I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Yeah, that's another one. That's a sore spot for me because that was fantastic. But if you were giving it a number out of 10, what would you be comfortable saying that this is what the score is?
Yeah, well, I gave it a 6.5.
Okay, that's fine. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah, I would have scored it higher at the multiplayer. I felt like been a little bit better, and I enjoyed it more. But even a 6.5, like it doesn't mean that the game's trash. I just want to make that point clear because I feel like sometimes people look at the numbers like, oh, that means like it's terrible. No, it's not terrible. I think again, if you enjoy Crackdown, you're going to enjoy this game. It's not a bad game. It's not trash. I just thought it to be an okay game.
Well, I mean, listen, that's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You gave it a 6.5, and that's your opinion. Nothing wrong with that. Slow-mo, I want to go to you next, dude. Cool. In your opinion, what would be the score? But more importantly, do you think that with the rough waters that the Crackdown 3 franchise has had, do you think that it deserves? We know that it's one of Phil Spencer's favorite not genres, but titles. He loves the Crackdown series, so we know that he's going to probably push for a 4. But do you think that the series deserves a 4? And with the proper development, with keeping it to one studio, and maybe we'll get the things that we didn't get that we want. Do you think we should see a Crackdown 4 in the future?
Absolutely. I think it's something I think Microsoft should invest more in their own IPs and properties. I think there should be a Crackdown 4, and they absolutely should have it in house. I am, Microsoft now is up to 13 studios and still trying to get more. At this point, any of your IP, I don't want to see it done by a second party studio. I just don't.
Agree.
You have
point.
You have multiple studios with each of these companies. Like Playground has 2 studios. Obsidian has 2 studios. Like you have multiple studios that could be able to do this kind of game for you. So I want to see a sequel. I want to see it done in house. I want it to get the kind of budget it deserves, not the budget that it eventually got after they got rid of Terry Myerson. I want to see that kind of budget started in pre-production so that they know the scope of what they can do from the very beginning, and it doesn't go into that kind of the development hell that we see some of these games go into. And like I said about this game before, I enjoyed the campaign. It is Crackdown. It's Crackdown 1 with some improvements visually and some improvements in the gameplay. I think I do kind of, Enrique, I do want more. I do want to evolve a little more, and I think like getting a developer that like. Let's say like a Compulsion Games, right? A developer that's new, that's raw and trying to really make a name for themselves. I think putting them on something like this would be a good idea. But of course they have free will to do whatever the hell they want. So there is basically get one of these studios to work on it. My score is the campaign alone. I'm gonna say probably like a 73. But with the multiplayer, me not enjoying that, I drop it down to a 70.
Okay, that's fine. 70 is perfectly fine. I mean, listen, that's your opinion. You played the game. You beat the game. You enjoyed the game, and you gave it a 70. And you know what? I don't think you see there's something that has gone awry with review scores this generation, maybe even the last generation, because back in the days, a 7 was like, okay, that's a good game. Now, unless a game is getting a 9 and 10, it's looked upon with shade. And I think that's wrong. Again,
I agree, Boom.
It's silly, right? I mean, like you've seen it, like for instance, you guys keep bringing it up. Anthem is getting destroyed, and there are going to be people that are going to be like, "Holy shit, that's got a 6.1 on Metacritic. I'm not getting that game." And you know what? When they eventually play, because they will, because their friends are going to be playing it, and they're going to be like, "Oh, but that doesn't deserve a 6.1." It's just, again, it's very subjective. What I will say, you know what?
Hey, Boom, don't mean to interrupt you, but one more thing. I do think that they need to make sure they get Terry Crews back for a sequel.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
That needs to absolutely happen. And maybe even get Terry Crews and pair her up with maybe like a charismatic female, so that maybe you can choose like to go with Terry Crews or go with like say I don't know, like the woman from what's that movie with Tom Cruise, and it's kind of like Groundhog Day, but it's an action flick.
She's in A Quiet Place too. Crap.
Yes, her. Like someone like her, or just any other like female that can really like own the scene and has a strong personality. I think if you could have 2 of them and give people the choice to choose between where you want to be. You want to be Terry Crews. You want to be this hardcore, badass chick.
Almost. Someone said The Rock in the live chat.
Oh, I don't know. Look, man, the Rock. Look, we want a AAA budget for the game, not a AAA budget just to get the Rock in the game. So I think the Rock might cost a little too much. But I mean, hey,
he probably would be a little bit much. But I listen. Yeah. I gotta say this, dude. You have some excellent ideas. If anyone from Sumo Digital is listening, slow-mo backslap. His DM is open. Hit this guy up for a job. Get this guy on the writing team, and you can help. You can get Boom on the marketing team. I'll take the slower paycheck. It's not a problem. But get this guy to write for you.
I got you, Boom.
I appreciate that. You get in, I'm in. I appreciate that. Thank you. Slow-mo, Mike, I pose a question to you next. Obviously, I want to know the score, but I want to know, in your opinion, based on what they were able to do with a very, very hellish development cycle. They did make a foundation that could be built upon if done the correct way with the correct team. Maybe Sumo Digital gets purchased by Microsoft, and they put a little bit more supervision into, because obviously this title was moved from developer multiple times, and I don't think back then they were paying attention to what they were doing. And I'm not sure who said it. It might have been Slow-Mo about if a first party title needs to be done by a first party developer. I think that's key. What are your takes on that? Do you think that we deserve a Crackdown 4 moving forward?
I think you meant to direct the question to Shady.
Yeah, Shady. It's for Shady.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear my name there at all. Yeah, I think Crackdown 4 is a must. I think they can improve on a lot of things, again, without suddenly turning it into a wannabe Grand Theft Auto narrative-driven, any of that. Like, they can bring some of the destruction into the campaign more than just having a couple signs that get broken. Like, they can really make it so I'm smashing all this neon stuff and it's coming apart. That would be awesome. Bring back 4-player co-op. I think that would be awesome. Yeah. I actually, I think it was a step back on the agency vehicles in this one. I liked how there was independent vehicles in the previous games, that the cars leveled up with your driving skill. When you first got into your agency car, it was casual. When you were at level 2 driving, it was a bit more badass. When you were level 5 driving, that SUV was a monster truck now that could climb buildings. Like, I thought that was a cool progression for the vehicles. They could bring something like that back. Just add more to it. Make it way louder, and just more of everything. Zanier guns, zanier gadgets, more of that. Make it so all the agents are outrageous and loud and voiced instead of just Terry Crews. And I don't mean go and bring in a bunch of celebrities either. Like, that can be neat when a celebrity shows up in a video game, but I'm not a fan of all of a sudden a video game like starring Tom Cruise, The Rock, and this guy, and her, and I don't want my video games to become like an extension of Hollywood's marketing where they think we all go see a movie because there's a pretty face in it. I mean, a lot of us do, but not I don't think the celebritydom has a spot in video games. I'm fine with the Troy Bakers and stuff like that. Just get someone who can deliver an awesome, enthusiastic, bombastic, excited to be there attitude for Crackdown, a Crackdown attitude, and give that to all the different agents. I liked how this one, the agents had slightly different perks, maybe improve that, increase that. Like, there's a lot of room for improvement here. I do enjoy it. The multiplayer, again, they could just increase the graphics, make the textures on what the buildings are more akin to what they were showing on that IGN footage. And it's a done deal. The tech is there. They just decided to go with a different look. So I'd like to see that expanded upon. I still think everyone needs to give that multiplayer a really fair shake, man. You're going to get your ass handed to you for a bit, but once you figure it out, it's fun, and you'll be the one wrecking. But I think it does deserve a sequel. As far as my score, I don't really give a game like this game is a this. I look at the reviews as my personal recommendation number. That's all it is. How high out of 10 would I recommend this game to other gamers? 8.5 for me. I love it. I recommend it to anyone out there that just likes an easy, fun time, easy to pick up. It'll melt your face off with the colors. It's bright as hell. It's a good time with friends, and it's something different. It really is something different, because a lot of games out there today, I think, try and take themselves too serious and don't recognize that some of us just want to take it easy and play a casual game every now and then and call it a day. We don't always need some big story attached and things like that. I like when they're there in the games that offer them, but in stuff like this, I had nothing but a good time. I highly, highly recommend it, which is why it's 8.5 on the recommended scale for me. That's all I have for games is a recommended scale. Nothing about the game itself. I recommend it heavily.
Okay, great. Well, great point. And of course, last but certainly not least, Tempest, what is your take on the idea of having a Crackdown 4 and, having this series return in grand fashion with no drama, with big graphics, big explosions, 4-player co-op, agency vehicles that change with your ranking, lots of things that could have been added, multiplayer buildings that look like they were supposed to look. Do you think we should get a Crackdown 4? And what was your score?
We should get a Crackdown 4. And it should, right off the top of my head, there's a few things you could add that would just, to me, breathe tons of life into the series. Like, for one, make Terry Crews front and center and be able to pick him. But, we have a sheet with like 20 agents on it with like names and stuff. How about they just let you customize your agent?
Okay. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah.
Personalities, this or that. I love creating characters in games. My wife does too. I mean, it's one of those things where I think it would breathe a lot of life into the game. Different cosmetics, not microtransactions, but cosmetics. Make the agent look how you want it to look. Make the combat a little bit more cinematic. I'm not talking like story-driven cinematics and stuff, but like these big robots or the big mechs that throw crap at you. If they take a while to kill, how about when you finally get down to killing them, they go into a down state and you can not like quick time event, but just do like a cool takedown, a cinematic takedown where you pluck the pilot out of the thing and toss them, or you rip the arms off and bash the thing and it blows up. I mean, whatever. You can do all kinds of crap.
Like a Doom style when they do the melee kills.
Oh, baby. Yeah, just crank animations up across the board. Yeah.
Yeah, just crank the animations up. I mean, as it stands now, if you knock a dude down on the ground, you sit there and you do kind of like let's be honest, it's like a wussy little kick. You're doing you sit there and you kind of kick the guy on the balls. It's like it's not great. So let's turn it into something a little bit more cinematic. Maybe get on the guy, pound his head. Yeah, or do a freaking Hulk and Loki, just like bash him back and forth. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah,
there's all kinds of crap you could do to make it just a little bit more, I guess, enticing, if you will. The multiplayer side of it, who knows, man? I mean, they wanted to do the multiplayer the way they did it to get the cloud tech involved in there. I think they could do probably a much better job. Realistically, they probably put that multiplayer together in less than a year, maybe.
Yeah, that was I mean, when the CloudGen engine was removed and they needed to fix it, Phil Spencer said it himself that they did it under a year.
Yeah, under a year. Well, so for what it is, that's pretty impressive. I mean, you can't just snap your fingers and poop out a freaking, great multiplayer mode. So as far as my score goes, like I said, it is a ton of fun. But looking at everything all the way it is, just looking at facts, but also factoring fun factor in there, I'd say like a very solid like 7.5. And with that score, just real quick, I just want to touch on what Boom said. He said there's like a divide there. It's like in video games, a 7 is terrible. Well, if you actually go on Metacritic and take a look at review scores for a lot of people's favorite movies, it's a totally different ball game. And maybe it's because movies have been around so much longer that they do have a higher spectrum of good to bad movie. But like the MCU, for example, look at some of the better MCU movies. I mean, most of the people here probably love MCU. A lot of them are in the 70s.
Yes.
And I mean, maybe video games would be also due for like a Rotten Tomatoes. A lot of people hate Rotten Tomatoes for something like movies. But pretty much what that is, if it's a bad game under a certain, or a bad movie under a certain area, it gets put in that camp. And really all Rotten Tomatoes is it says like if a movie gets a 73, it just means 73% of those reviews say it's worth watching. But Metacritic, it's just set up differently, where it just takes all the review scores and crams it in a number. And it's all opinions. I mean, you're going to get some people. Also, you're going to get some outlets wanting clicks as well. So, I mean, like, let's slap a 4 on this, even though everybody else is giving it an 8. You do see that a lot, and it's stupid. But I don't know. Maybe somebody needs to create a Rotten Tomatoes, but for games. It might just look a little differently. Like the MCU movies are 90s on Rotten Tomatoes, and you get all excited about it. You shoot over to Metacritic, and they're sitting in like the 60, 70 percentile range. You're like, oh, really? What's going on here?
There's nothing wrong with leaving it like you recommend it or you don't, and that's what the Rotten Tomatoes was, right? Like 75% recommend the movie. That sounds way better than critic comes in and is like, it's a 63 because the cinematography was a little off and the color schemes and the K part there, they kind of blended it in, and the one line I found very offensive. Those tell me less, as opposed to, hey, look, the majority of people liked it. Check it out.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, if you were to base it off of movie scores and if things were to shift that way, look at Crackdown 3. That's the perfect example. You have some sites giving it a 40, some sites giving it a 50. If they're in that range, then that goes on the negative side of the reviews. But if everybody else is sitting at like 60s or 70s, hey, I got news for you. At least the movie land, that's people recommending to use it, to play it.
You know,
right.
so you just brought something up that actually reminded me of something about my main issue with Metacritic. When you mentioned the people, and Enrique knows where I'm about to go with this.
Yeah, that's it's a great point, Slow-Mo.
When you mentioned the 40s on Metacritic for the game, those aren't actually a good majority of those 40s are actually the reviewer giving it a 40. They just didn't actually put a score on it. Metacritic will take negative reviews that don't give a score and automatically give it a 40.
Oh,
That review.
I did not know that, dude. I did not know that.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
It's a stupid idea. It really wrecks their entire system because they don't give positive reviews that don't. If ACG says this is a must-buy game, you gotta get it. They don't put ACG's review in there as a 100. Nope. They don't do positive reviews with no score like that, but they'll put in negative reviews with no.
I did not know that, dude. Wow,
it's flawed. That's the major.
Very flawed.
Yeah, it's terrible. They really need to address that because it skews things in a way that it shouldn't.
I got to be honest with you that I don't get really taken aback by hearing stuff. This is a revelation. I had no idea they did that. That is
go to Crackdown 3. Look at the Giant Bomb review. I think it's the Giant Bomb review, and of course they killed it. And Giant Bomb could have thought it was a 0, or they could have thought it was a 60 or a 50, but they didn't actually put a score. And then you look at the score in Metacritic, it's a 40, and they do that all the time. And that 40 really drops the average score for a game down. It could take for example, like Obsidian, who when they were working with Bethesda on Fallout New Vegas, they missed out on a massive bonus that would have helped the studio by 1 point. Their contract said they had to have an 85 or above. They had an 84. Wow. If you're including reviews that don't have scores and just giving it a slap of 40 on it and keep it moving, I'm like, what are you doing? You don't do that for the positive reviews that don't have scores. It's just not fair. So
that's weird, man.
Wow. Dude, that's fantastic. I did not know that, and obviously now I never held any candles to Metacritic anyway. They completely become irrelevant when you tell me stuff like this. But real quick, before we get out of here and I get everyone to do their outros, for me personally, I spent a significant amount of time playing through Crackdown 3. I really enjoyed it from start to finish. I'm gonna my review, if I was actually reviewing it, I would have given it a solid 7.5 out of 10, simply because there are some ways that they innovated with the jumping and the movement and like the checkpoints when you're climbing these towers. You didn't get all the way to top full off, and you have to start from the beginning. They had checkpoints. I thought that was ingenious. One of the other things I really enjoyed is that they have 5 different save slots where you can have actually 5 different worlds. So if you want to play with Shady on this world, you play there, and all of your agents, stats go with you. But if you want to play with your brother, Johnny, who just started the game, you can go and do a separate save for him, and everything is new. And the way they did it with finding the orbs is that they're kind of grayed out, so you can see them, and you can be like, "Hey, Johnny, there's an orb up over here," and you bring him up, and you can lead him. You don't get the orb again, but it's there. It's there, kind of grayed out to see. I thought that was really ingenious. There were a lot of things that they did, and obviously there were some things that they missed on. Obviously, the multiplayer is for some and not for others. But at the end of the day, like I said, enjoy the game. Please, be nice with one another. If it's not your bag, I hear you. You don't have to treat anybody like garbage because you fly one flag or the other. The way that you can fix that, and I've been saying this for the longest time, stop being just a slave to one plastic. Try if you can, and everyone can't do it because gaming is expensive, but when you support all 3 consoles, that nastiness of having to say, well, my system is better than yours goes out the window, because I support everything, I play everything, I enjoy everything, and I think everyone should maybe try and do that, and it removes this stigma of my box is better than yours. But you know what? This has been a great show, better than I thought it was going to be, because obviously it's just one topic. Everyone had great points of view. I really appreciate the chat. Obviously, we had 1 or 2 knuckleheads that that want to make trouble and ruin it for everyone. But of course, Lethal Papa, who is a very good friend of the show, very good friend of this community, stepped in and did what he normally does, and he does things fairly. So I appreciate his help with that. We had over almost 160 people watching live, which is bananas for this small channel. And I want to thank everybody for that. Of course, my panel guys, I couldn't have done it without you. So let's get you guys out of here. Obviously, Enrique, you know, I talk until I'm blue in the face about how I really enjoy your work. I think that you are a positive voice. You are a fair voice in this community. Yes, you and I have a different opinion about the media, but that's
okay,
perfect.
though, man.
But that is okay,
Yeah.
because it would be a real boring show if everyone was just like drones and agreed or disagreed. So please tell everyone where they can find you. But more importantly, check out the Basement Radio Arcade podcast, which is fantastic.
Well, Boom, again, man, I just want to say thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure coming on the show, man. And hey, man, I said it last time you were on BRAP. You're the hardest worker in the business, man. And people haven't been on your show. They don't know the level of work that you put into, getting these shows together, man. It was just getting the topics together. It's so thorough. It's so appreciated too. It really is.
I really appreciate that, because I got to tell you, this is my Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Mhm.
Friday was 2 shows. This is my 5th show in a row, and 4 of them I wrote for. And it was stressful. I'm not going to sit here and say that it was easy this time. I've been a little under the weather, and I've been trying to write for these shows. I actually have been not sleeping the last couple of nights, because I wanted to make sure that these shows were different and fun and exciting and interesting. But that's really kind of you to say. I appreciate it.
No, man, absolutely. And hey, anyone listening, if you want to give me a follow on Twitter, you can find me at BRAP_podcast on the Twitters. And you can check us out on YouTube. You can check out me, the Scholar Slow-Mo Backslap.
Yes, the Scholar. I love that.
Yeah, I like that too. B-Money 101, Eric Jackson, and Gaming Forte. We go live Wednesday nights on YouTube, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check out the Basement Radio Arcade podcast.
Yes, well, dude, it's a great show. You guys are always knocking it out of the park. You deserve to have 100 people watching each and every show. You guys are just awesome. I love it. And Slow-Mo, of course, the Scholar of today's podcast. I wanted to say thank you for being here as always. It's always awesome. Hanging out with you. It was great to get to meet you for the first time on Luca's show a very, very long time ago. I got to get back on her show coming up, because I'm very good friends with her. Dude, listen, I love your opinion in the community. It's fair. It's honest. You're a gamer. Scores don't matter to you. And like I said, you do bring a lot of the knowledge to the show. And today's a perfect example of that with the whole Metacritic thing. I had absolutely no idea that's what they did. And that was really incredible information. Tell everyone where they can follow you, but more importantly, listen to you on your shows.
Yeah, you can catch me on Twitter, same name, Slow-Mo Backslap. I'm usually there commenting on all of the nonsense that's going on as usual. Again, on Enrique's podcast, Basement Radio Arcade podcast on Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Easterns, and even a little bit later, I don't know the exact time, because it's the Ash and Luca, so who knows when this will start. But the Scumcast will be later today, and you can catch me on there too. So, yeah,
well, it was always a pleasure.
And Boom, I'm always happy to join you. You always run a very tight ship podcast that is all about respect and treating everyone's opinions equally, and I just love being a part of it, love enjoying it.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, dude. It's always an honor to work with you for sure. And I will be reaching out to you again in the future. Of course, So Shady, the man with many opinions. Dude, we've worked together numerous times. You and I have already talked privately. You're going to be on Breakfast with Boom more times than not. And I do appreciate your passion for gaming. Tell everyone where they can follow you on Twitter, dude.
Now, thanks, Boom. I had an absolutely fantastic time here today. I just wanted to say, I get very passionate and energetic. I'm not upset with anybody that disagrees with me at all. I actually enjoyed those conversations more. There's a chance in a disagreement that I'm going to be the one that's learning something. At the very least, I'm learning how somebody else appreciates the hobby that I appreciate. And I do enjoy that. I'm not out here to tell anyone how it is. I'm just out here to share how I feel about certain things. If I happen to change some minds, so be it. That's not my agenda. I'm just here to talk games with gamers, man. And I absolutely love doing it here, bud. You give everyone a fair shake. Everyone gets to share their opinion. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's not a screaming fest, a yell fest. We're not calling each other names. Just kudos, man. You're building a wicked community over here, and I am completely honored to be a part of it. I am the affiliate, so shady, looking to affiliate myself with anyone who affiliate themselves with me. Simple as that. So yeah, on Twitter, I'm at the Sesh Empire. That's one word, man. And on Xbox, I'm so shady. On the Game Dosage podcast on Mondays, I'm showing up there pretty frequent. And like you said on yourself, I'm going to be on Breakfast with the Boom a lot, which I look forward to doing. Thank you, everyone, for coming out and listening to us crackheads talk about some Crackdown. I loved it, man. I loved it. But at the same time, I'm glad that the show is over because Anthem is calling my name right now.
Everybody's name.
And I got to get in there. But again, thank you so much for everyone else. I had the time of my life here this morning. It was great. Peace.
Well, thanks so much, dude. And of course, last but in no way least, a community member that is making his voice heard. Very, very stout speaker. Someone that I respect. Someone I'm going to be asking to come on more shows more often. Tempest, tell everyone where they could find you, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me, Boom. I had a lot of fun. It was awesome being on these panels with these fine gentlemen here. You can find me on Twitter at the Tempest Sun. I'm there checking my phone whenever I get a little notification. So say hi to me and I'll say hi back. You can, if you have me on Xbox Live, my gamer tag is Tempest Sun on there. Probably be playing like Apex or something like that, or Crackdown or whatever. If you want to do some gaming, just send me a message. And
yeah, you want to play Apex Legends with this guy. I think he's up to 400 kills. PS, by the way.
Nice.
Yeah, he's ridiculous, dude. He is ridiculously good.
Yeah, I need to get with you, man, because I'm not getting wins right now. I went to like top 3 teams and always end up losing. So I need
well, let's do it, man. It's Saturday. Just send me an invite. Well, let's get this thing going.
Yes, cool. Yes. This guy is the Apex professional. So yes, everybody hit him up for on Xbox Live, and more importantly, give this guy a follow on Twitter. He does interact with the community. He is a good dude, and that's going to be it for today's show. I want to thank everybody once again in the chat. I want to thank everybody for the donations to the show through Super Chat. Listen, every dollar is extremely generous of you to offer, and it's very well appreciated by me. And of course, another thank you to my incredible panel. Thank you for spending an hour and a half on a topic I did not know it was going to be this exciting. It was a lot of fun. The show was better than I anticipated, and I hope everyone enjoyed it. Have a fantastic Saturday. And if you want to hear more Boomstick, because I'm constantly pushing the envelope, I'm going to be on the Iron Lords podcast tomorrow at 1 p.m. And there is going to be a pretty big announcement regarding this channel and what I'm working on with the Iron Lord. So if you want to hear that, tune in. It's going to be big. It's going to be a big change for the channel in a way that I'm going to be able to do some reporting in the future that I've never done before. So look forward to that, and see you tomorrow. And we'll see you next week on all of the shows that I do. Have a fantastic weekend, and you know what? Play games and just be nice with one another. Take care, everyone.